When photography was officially announced, in 1838, the first thing people thought was painting would be dead. Actually, photography liberated painting to actually look at itself and understand the development of the way in which people had looked at the world up to that moment. And the Cubist movement was a way to look at this new way of looking at the world through photography and say, no, this is not just that. I think Cubists were saying that they were trying to inject humanity. There's memory. There is actually the fact that when you look at something, you're moving. The subject is moving. You're seeing sides, you're seeing fronts, and also there's the emotion that visual stimulus imprints on you. It is a way of complicated the gaze and extending it beyond the simple act of representation. And in a moment where photography as a means to depict the world has become utterly obsolete, because our ability to manipulate it has become greater than our ability to convey truth to what we're doing. To come back with a medium that has suffered the same fate of painting, and to comment upon Cubism, which was initial reaction to it, it seemed like a good idea. So you start with an image that is already known, something that is archetypal or it's iconical. That's the point of departure. From there, we redo them in layers, so we give them a sort of a physicality. The fact that we actually make a version of it that has volume, photograph it, and then print it to the size that we had it before, it's 1:1, and then we work on it again and work on it again, sometimes 4 or 5 times, just creating generations of images. You get a picture that has holes in it that you can see through, and elements that are in front of it that mimic the process in which they were created. I think I have developed this photographic work based on the fact that if I just made these mosaics, if I just made these collages and presented as they were, people were just looking at it with an idea of craft. I'm not interested in that at all. I think everybody can do, it's not about the hand-to-eye coordination, being able to make really pretty things. It's about creating a situation where people has a chance to think of what's happening inside that picture. I don't think I'm capable of envisioning a masterpiece. And I envy people who have the power of will or the foolishness to think about that, that I'm going to make a great work of art. I don't know what I'm going to make, or most of the time. And I think I started working with series because it's a way for me to actually get away from this idea of something that I want. When you start working with series, you get 2 things. You get a material, you get an idea, and then you start playing one thing against the other, and you come up with the first work. And then you make another one, and what you learn from the previous one, you apply to the next. And then you start getting better and better and better in what you're doing. And then all of a sudden there's a curve, You get to a point that you're just filling up holes in the whole process. The hardest thing in managing a creative activity is actually managing these curves. So whenever I'm getting to the top of one, I'm already starting on a different one. So you have consecutive waves of work. And I like to work in many things simultaneously as well, so I don't lose interest. If I'm too engaged in one thing, I'm afraid that I'll get too involved, and that may spoil the process. At the end, I think the final work, the masterpiece, is not one work, but this cinematic succession of improvements and then of just boredom that follows. So the whole work is the series. These works, the Cubist works, there are going to be and brown right now. They are right at the top of a curve that started with the handmade a few years ago, when I was starting to play with the idea of how to use paper as a medium and as a subject as well. And at the same time, talk about picture making in a newly found painterly way that I discovered with the inkjet, the good machines that started to come up in the market. It's very important also that as an artist, you're working at the edge of your technological means. There is only one time in history that you could work in photography with a medium that conveys so much truth and feeling in this way, that you can manipulate it with the speed that we're doing right now. So we could only do this today.